On the day of my wedding, I was locked in a bathroom stall by my own brother. The scholarship student I had once sponsored, unwilling to see my fiancé humiliated on stage, volunteered to stand in for me and marry Ryan. My brother, deeply moved, immediately accepted her as his sworn sister and let her marry in my place. Later, my fiancé told me, "Amelia, you healed my legs. I love you, I respect you, but Camila and I are already legally married. From now on, you'll be my girlfriend, and she'll be my wife. We'll be just like before, okay?" I slapped him across the face. What he didn't know was, his disability was never truly cured. Without the brace I made, he'd be paralyzed again in 7 days. And my heartless brother, he's never even seen our parents' will. How can he be so sure the company was left to him? Chapter 1. I stumbled out of the bathroom, soaked and humiliated, only to see Ryan holding Camila's hand, smiling as he toasted the guests. "Thank you all for coming to our wedding today. This marks a new level of cooperation between our two families." Standing high on the stage, Ryan spoke in a vague tone, intentionally skipping over Camila's name. Many in the crowd truly believed he was still marrying me. Thunderous applause filled the room. Then Ryan spotted me out of the corner of his eye, dripping wet, a mess. His expression darkened. He shot me a warning glance. "Don't you dare cause trouble now." Camila followed his gaze and lit up with faux delight. She rushed over with a sickeningly sweet voice. "Sis, I'm so glad you made it. What a perfect day, 2 blessings in one. Come, have a drink." Lucas rushed over, pretending to help me, still putting on a show. I slapped him, hard. He clutched his swollen cheek, staring at me in disbelief. "Sis, you hit me." I gave him a cold, mocking smile, no explanation. Then I raised my hand again for a second slap. But before it could land, Ryan grabbed my wrist. His face was stone cold. "Amelia, this is too much. You skipped the wedding and made me a joke. Now you're hitting your own brother." Looking at my childhood sweetheart, my nose began to sting with emotion. I was just about to speak, to tell him everything. But suddenly, Camila dropped to her knees in front of me with a dramatic thud. "Sister, if anyone should be blamed, let it be me," she said tearfully. I just couldn't bear to watch Ryan stand there alone, being judged by everyone. Everything I did was out of gratitude. I only wanted to protect the partnership between our families. "And now that you're finally back, I won't even ask why you ran away from the wedding." Her words, sweet and pitiful on the surface, subtly painted me as the villain. 3 sentences, just enough to turn me into a runaway bride. Lucas, lips pressed into a thin line, suddenly dragged me off the stage. He leaned close, whispering a sharp warning. "If the partnership falls through, it's all on you, the eternal sinner." I looked into his face, twisted by anger, and felt only cold disappointment settle in my heart. Chapter 2. When our parents died in a car crash, he was only 10. I was the one who stepped forward without hesitation, shielding him from greedy shareholders trying to seize the company and from opportunistic relatives hoping to take everything from an orphan. He used to look at me with admiration in his eyes. But now, all I see in his gaze is hatred. "Sis, why can't you think more about me for once? Camila is a better match for Ryan than you. Why can't you just let him go to her?" I forcefully shook off his grip and looked straight at Ryan instead. "Is she really the one you want, Ryan?" He stared at me for a long moment, then turned to look at Camila, eyes filled with hesitation. And it was that hesitation that completely broke me. After the accident, the world abandoned him, but I didn't. I was the only one who held on, pulling him out of the darkness, giving everything I had to help him stand again. That year, I officially handed the company over to Lucas and poured a fortune into assembling the best medical team. I worked day and night, living in the hospital lab, barely sleeping. By the following year, we had developed a new material. With the help of top surgeons in the country, Ryan was finally able to walk again. But not even a month after he stood on his own feet, he was already torn between me and Camila. A bitter smile curled on my lips. I don't want a man who can't stay loyal. Suddenly, Camila grabbed my arm, tears falling as she played the innocent victim. "Don't worry, sister," she said sweetly. "Even though Ryan and I are already married, I'll return him to you." Then, she pulled out their marriage certificate from her coat and tore it to pieces, scattering the fragments like confetti into the air. Ryan clutched her protectively, his voice resolute. Camila, we've registered our marriage. That makes you my wife, and no one can change that. His eyes burned red as he glared at me. Amelia, do you really want to drive her to her death? Before I could even open my mouth, a wine glass smashed at my feet the next second, shattering into sharp pieces. One of the shards sliced across the top of my foot, and blood oozed out in a thin, steady line. But Ryan didn't even glance my way. His voice grew colder, more impatient. All those years I was lying in a hospital bed, you were always busy, holed up in the lab day and night, nowhere to be seen. It was Camila who stayed by my side, sleepless and tireless. She didn't flinch at how broken and filthy I was. She cleaned my body, cared for me. Where were you then? And now, by some twist of fate, I've married Camila, so she is my wife, and she's the only one who ever will be. Chapter 3. My soaked gown clung tightly to my body, and the cold seeped deep into my bones. Ryan had forgotten. I locked myself in that lab for him. Lucas stepped in with a grim face and pulled me aside. Sis, enough. If you keep making a scene, you're only embarrassing yourself. The only way to fix this now is to give your hospital and your medical team to Camila as her dowry. I'm sure Ryan will let the broken engagement go, and Camila, as our honorary sister, will be officially part of the family. I stared at him coldly and said, loud and clear. My parents only had one daughter. Where the hell did I get a sister from? We parted on bad terms. That very night, I posted on my social media, officially announcing my breakup with Ryan. What I didn't expect was to find a worn-out-looking Ryan standing at my doorstep the next morning, Camila behind him with a pitiful expression. He was holding a bouquet of red roses, and the moment he saw me, his bloodshot eyes lit up. Come on, stop it. Whatever you were mad about should have cooled off overnight. Amelia, I know you love me. We're not breaking up. I glanced at the hickey on Camila's neck and gave a cold laugh. You slept with Camila. What do you mean we're not breaking up? You want me to be your side chick? Side chick? Don't make it sound so ugly, Ryan frowned. Camila is my wife. You're my girlfriend. Isn't that just like before? Isn't that fine? I stared at him like he'd completely lost his mind. At that moment, I seriously doubted whether the car crash had damaged not just his legs, but also his brain. Otherwise, how could he say something that insane? But my stunned silence gave him the wrong idea. He thought I loved him enough to agree. Camila bit her lip in anger but forced a fake smile as she stepped forward, trying to grab my sleeve. I instinctively raised my arm to avoid her touch. I barely even moved, but Camila suddenly fell straight backward. Clutching her belly tightly, she screamed. Ryan! Save our baby! Camila had a miscarriage. The moment Ryan heard the news, he completely lost it. He dragged me to her hospital bed and stomped on my back, forcing me to kneel. Amelia, you have to atone for everything you've done. His face darkened with fury. Suddenly, he kicked me hard, and I hit the ground with a scream. Blood oozed from my elbow where I landed. He didn't care. He waved for his bodyguards, like a demon straight out of hell. Amelia, don't be scared. It'll all be over soon. A terrible sense of dread surged in me. I turned to run, but a burly bodyguard grabbed me instantly. As I watched the icy fury flash across Ryan's eyes, my voice trembled. Ryan, what are you going to do to me? But instead of answering me, Ryan drove his foot straight into my stomach. I didn't even have time to react. A brutal wave of pain exploded through my body, as if all my internal organs were being shattered from the inside. I collapsed onto the ground, clutching my abdomen tightly, my face as pale as a sheet. I had sacrificed everything, poured everything into healing Ryan's legs. Was it all just so he could hurt me like this? At that moment, I felt utterly worthless. But Ryan wasn't done with me. He grabbed my face, forcing me to look up at him. Amelia, of all the things you could have done, how dare you harm my child? Do you have any idea how hard it was for me to finally have a baby? The pain was so intense I couldn't speak. I could only glare at him with eyes full of hatred. Chapter 4. Of course I knew. Every man in Ryan's family had weak fertility. His mother chose me to be her daughter-in-law, not just because she was best friends with my mom, but because she knew I took after my mother. I had a body that conceived easily. Ryan's family never arranged marriages. In their tradition, Only a woman who gave birth to a son earned the right to marry into the family. I was the one and only exception. Ryan's expression was icy cold, not a shred of warmth in his eyes. He slapped me across the face, again and again, until my vision blurred and my head spun. I collapsed like a rag doll, thrown onto the ground, barely hanging on. Before I could even catch my breath, the door burst open and Lucas stormed in, panting. Without hesitation, he kicked me square in the chest. "Amelia, have you gone insane? You made Camila lose her first child." The way he looked at me, desperate, furious, anyone would have thought he was the father. I coughed up a mouthful of blood. But what hurt more than my body was my heart. Lucas had clearly forgotten that first year after our parents died, when our relatives fought over the inheritance and dozens of people surrounded us. Someone had nearly kicked him to death. It was me who threw myself in front of him and took the blow. He cried and called me sister, promising he'd protect me for the rest of his life. Was this how he protected me? Calling me sister one minute, and the next trying to make me hand over my hospital to Camila as a wedding gift. I pushed myself up with all the strength I had left and slapped Lucas across the face, hard. The blow sent him staggering backward several steps. While everyone was stunned and their attention was on Lucas, I seized the chance and bolted out the door. The bodyguards chased me relentlessly, but this was my hospital. The doctor told me 3 of my ribs were broken. I bit down hard on my lower lip, the metallic taste of blood flooding my tongue. Each breath tugged at the fracture, making me bite even harder. The pain made my hatred crystal clear. I would make every last one of them pay. Just then, my phone rang. "Boss, the new generation stent is ready. Should we proceed with the installation for Mr. Ryan?" Ryan thought that now his legs had healed, I was no longer useful to him. That's why he dared to suggest I become his mistress. But what he didn't know was, his recovery wasn't complete. He was still missing one final support stent. And I'm the only person in the world capable of performing that surgery. All it takes is 7 days, and he'll be back to the days where he couldn't even stand. During my recovery, Ryan and Lucas kept calling me non-stop. I didn't answer a single one. Then came the text messages. All the same manipulative garbage, demanding I show up to apologize to Camila and hand over the hospital as her wedding gift. "Ryan, Amelia, if you don't show up soon, we're done. Lucas, if you don't pick up the phone, don't blame me for cutting you off as my sister." I blocked them all. Except for Camila. Camila kept messaging me too, but hers were different. Today, she sent me a picture of Ryan taking her to meet his parents. Tomorrow, she'd send me clips of them kissing in bed. The next day, a smug selfie in front of my company's building. "Sister, Lucas says we're family, so he insisted on giving me a position at the company. Guess what? I'm the new deputy general manager. I told him it was your position, but Lucas said I deserved it. Oh, and look, Lucas insisted on giving me this gift / attached. Luxury jewelry photo, every single one of those messages, was evidence. I could never understand why Lucas would rather choose Camila over me, his own sister. But when I closed my eyes, the image of Lucas's panicked expression when Camila miscarried flashed in my mind. And suddenly, a bold, terrifying thought surfaced. Knock, knock, knock. The knock on the door shattered my thoughts. And the person who walked in was someone I never expected. "You. What are you doing here?" Chapter 5. 7 days later, at the Ryan family banquet, I walked in slowly, holding the invitation in hand, fully recovered. But luck really wasn't on my side. The moment I stepped through the door, I ran right into Ryan. He was dressed to the nines, smiling as he held Camila by the waist, cheerfully chatting with the elders one by one. The second he saw me, the smile vanished from his eyes. He rushed over and grabbed my arm. "Amelia, I knew you couldn't bear to break up with me." He gave a wicked smile and reached out to pull me closer. "Don't worry, I'm a man of my word. As long as you hand over the hospital to Camila, you'll still be my girlfriend. I'll treat you and Camila equally, I promise." But before his hand could touch me, someone yanked him back with force. A lazy, teasing voice came from behind me. "Touching your elder like that, little nephew. Didn't my brother ever teach you any manners?" It was just a light tug, yet Ryan went flying uncontrollably, crashing straight into the champagne tower. The sound of glass shattering rang out through the hall, drawing everyone's attention. Soaked and humiliated, Ryan looked like a drowned rat. He opened his mouth to curse, but the words caught in his throat when he saw who had thrown him. "Uncle. What are you doing here?" Ryan tried to stand, but the moment he moved, his legs buckled. He couldn't get up. Panic flooded his eyes, so familiar, so pathetic. "My legs. Why can't I feel my legs?" In that instant, he was thrown back to the darkness and helplessness of before. Reflexively, he looked up at me, reaching for help. "Amelia, help me." He crawled toward me, trying to grab my hand. But I stepped back, deliberately, avoiding his touch. My voice was ice cold. "You have a wife now, Camila. Why are you coming to me?" Ryan froze as our eyes met, and in mine, he saw nothing but disgust. He panicked, his voice trembling as he practically begged. "Amelia, you said you loved me, you said you'd never leave me." Before I could say a word, Eric stepped forward, placing himself between me and Ryan. "My dear nephew," he said calmly. "I already told you, this is your aunt-in-law. Hands off." Ryan's face went pale. Before he could respond, Camila suddenly dropped to her knees in front of me with a loud thud. "Sister, I know you're mad that I took Ryan from you, but no matter how angry you are, you shouldn't just marry anyone. And especially not one of Ryan's elders, he." Camila had clearly wanted to say Eric was old, but when she looked up and saw his perfectly handsome face, the words caught in her throat. So she quickly changed her tune. "Even if you and Ryan weren't meant to be, you're still a doctor. How could you just abandon him like this? You've been treating his legs all along." Chapter 6. Camila tried to guilt-trip me, while Ryan looked at me with hopeful eyes. But I simply reached out and tightly held Eric's hand. His palm was rough, warm, and grounding. 7 days ago, Eric had pushed open the door to my hospital room and gotten straight to the point. "Miss Amelia, I know you're the actual person running your company. Back then, you agreed to marry Ryan not just because of the engagement, but because you wanted a business alliance to take your company further. But now, Ryan and Lucas have both betrayed you. You need an ally." I stared at him coldly from the hospital bed. If my childhood fiancé and my own blood brother could stab me in the back, what made Eric think I'd trust him? Maybe he saw the doubt in my eyes, because he pulled out a contract and handed it to me. "Take a look. You might change your mind." It was a share transfer agreement. It said that if I gave him a child, all his shares would be transferred to me. Eric was the only son, born to his mother late in life. In reality, he was only 7 years older than me. He'd been pampered growing up, had never had a girlfriend, and rumors swirled that he preferred men. Don't worry. I'm straight. I just haven't met the right person, until now. And what makes you think I'm the right person? There's only one way to find out, try me. When his deep gaze met mine, my heart skipped a beat. And so I took his hand. Now, as Ryan stared at our interlocked fingers, his eyes were practically spitting fire. But he didn't dare lash out. This was his infamous Uncle Eric, after all. Eric was known for being unpredictable and dangerous. "Amelia, is this what you wanted? To force an apology out of me? I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have tested your love." Camila meant nothing, it was just a fling. "You're the one I love most, Amelia. You love me so much. There's no way you'd actually marry someone else. And with my uncle, no less. You're doing this to teach me a lesson, right?" Ryan's voice cracked, tears streaming down his face as he begged. But I didn't spare him another glance. Chapter 7. For the rest of his life, he'll live incomplete, forever broken. That night, after Eric dropped me off at home, I turned down his offer to come in for tea. What I didn't expect was that the moment I stepped inside, a vase flew past my face and smashed into the door behind me. Just a few centimeters more, and it would have hit me square in the face. Lucas's furious voice rang out. "Amelia, are you seriously trying to tear Ryan and Camila apart? What did you do to him? What kind of drug did you use to make him unable to stand again? You're going back right now to fix him. Or don't blame me for disowning you as my sister." Not even 30 minutes had passed, yet Lucas already knew. Who else could have told him so quickly if not Camila? I had already lost all hope in him the moment he kicked me in the chest for her. My voice was cold and sharp. "No, you've got it wrong. I'm the one who doesn't need a heartless brother like you." Then, Without giving him time to react, I kicked him straight out the door. You're not worthy of being my brother. As of today, we're done. This villa is under my name. Get out. Lucas had been kicked out of the house. Next, it was time to take back the company. I thought of how he had shouted at my door last night, still full of pride. Sis, you're just a woman. In the end, you still need me. Who do you think you are? I stopped you from marrying Ryan for your own good. Why can't you see that? If you married Ryan, everything, your assets, your shares, your hospital, they'd all end up his. Camila agreed. As long as you gave her the hospital, it would all be considered premarital assets and stay in our family. When he saw how furious I was, Lucas sighed as if he was the one disappointed and left. The next morning, my secretary called in a panic. Lucas had gone to the company, fired me, and handed over the South City project to Camila. That project had over $1 billion in joint investment with Ryan's family's corporation. If it succeeded, both families would rise to new heights. I had been managing it from the start. Even when Lucas adopted Camila as his sister, he never handed it over to her. Clearly, being kicked out last night had pushed him over the edge, and now, he was determined to prop up Camila even if Ryan was now crippled and useless. Chapter 8. Now that things had come to this, I wasn't in a hurry anymore. It was time to let them see who really owned the company. After hanging up the phone, I called my private investigator and told him to look into the real relationship between Lucas and Camila. As for the baby she lost, I had already planned ahead. I'd asked the doctor to preserve the fetus and run a paternity test. Just as I suspected, it wasn't Ryan's child. It was Lucas and Camila's. My dear little nephew. I gathered all the evidence carefully. Not long after, Eric called and invited me to dinner. At the Western restaurant, Eric animatedly recounted Camila's recent humiliations. She had gone around using the identity of the group's young madam to seek out investors and strike up business deals. At first, people welcomed her warmly, but when they realized she was a fraud, no one treated her nicely anymore. A few investors close to me had even thrown her out on the spot. Camila was furious and ran back to cry to Lucas. He wanted to call and confront me, but unfortunately for him, he was already blocked. In a great mood after dinner with Eric, I stepped outside and unexpectedly ran into Ryan's mother. I froze for a moment. I hadn't expected her to come find me. Especially not after the disaster of their wedding banquet, where none of the elders even bothered to step in. I gave Eric a calming look and followed Ryan's mother into the nearby cafe. She ordered me an iced Americano and smiled kindly. You're just like your mother, simple and sweet. Always liked your coffee cold. She reached out to stroke my forehead, but I stepped back and avoided her touch. Her hand hovered awkwardly in midair. She gave a strained smile. You've grown distant. Look, we didn't know what Ryan was up to. Your uncle and I had no idea. But we've talked to him. He knows he made mistakes and now he regrets everything. You and Ryan grew up together. I know how much you love him. Don't let that bad woman Camila ruin what you two have. Her tone was soft, like a concerned elder offering sincere advice. But deep down, I let out a cold laugh. Still, my face remained composed. I calmly asked. So, Auntie, what do you think I should do? Chapter 9. Her eyes lit up, thinking I still couldn't let go of Ryan, that I had actually taken her words to heart. Auntie knows you only said you were marrying Eric to provoke Ryan. Now Ryan's really heartbroken, drinking himself numb every day, crying out your name. Don't worry. As long as you come back, I'll make sure he divorces Camila immediately. You two can start over. I pretended to hesitate. But I've already registered my marriage with Eric. Ryan's mother was stunned for a second, then quickly waved it off. It's fine. You'd be a second marriage and so would Ryan. He wouldn't mind at all. I stood up abruptly, voice sharp as ice. But I mind. He's nothing but a rotten cucumber. Her eyes widened in disbelief, and I went on. Besides, he's a cripple with weak fertility. What makes you think I'd ever want him? At the table around the corner, a familiar figure froze. Ryan's mother jumped to her feet, furious. How dare you speak like that to your elders? I chuckled. Elder? Don't flatter yourself. Let's not forget, I'm your sister-in-law now. At that moment, Ryan rolled his wheelchair over and blocked his mother. Amelia, I but I had zero interest in hearing anything he had to say. I turned on my heel and walked away. Mrs. Gu had it all planned out. Because of my fertility, she'd locked me into becoming her daughter-in-law. Back when Ryan lost the use of his legs, she sobbed in front of me, begging me to take care of him. Back then, I truly couldn't let go of Ryan, so I agreed. Thinking about it now, I realize how utterly foolish I was. Outside the cafe, Eric stood tall, his eyes lighting up when he turned to me, seeing no one but my reflection in them. Your dear sister-in-law really knows how to scheme. Once again, she wants to throw you Ryan's mess to clean up. Eric frowned slightly, clearly displeased. Of course she does. After that banquet, when Ryan realized his legs were failing again and you blocked him, he couldn't reach you anymore. He's been running around desperately looking for doctors. He's volatile now, irritable, humiliated. She had no other choice but to try and lure you out for one last shot. A subtle smirk appeared on Eric's lips. Good thing you're not that dumb anymore. Too bad for Ryan, because no one else will ever love him the way I once did. That night, when Eric drove me home, I didn't reject his offer to come upstairs for a glass of water. After all, the contract was in effect. We were family now. Chapter 10. The next morning, I rubbed my sore waist, but my mind had never felt clearer. I opened the curtains and saw a familiar car parked downstairs. Ryan had spent the whole night outside my building. I pulled the curtains shut immediately. Eric didn't notice anything unusual. Propping himself up on one arm, his gaze was soft as he looked at me. Need help dealing with Ryan? He asked. I slipped into my clothes without hesitation. Of course. Eric raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. I thought you'd say you didn't need my help, that you could handle it yourself. I rolled my eyes at him. I wasn't running a charity. The whole point of marrying him was to gain something out of it, wasn't it? Since he offered, of course I wouldn't waste a perfectly free opportunity. His family company was still being run by the old man. Even though Eric held some major positions, as long as he stayed single and childless, the company would never truly be his. But he could definitely mess with his older brother, and that was more than enough. While their family business was caught in infighting, my own company wasn't doing much better. Camila had failed to secure investments and had been openly mocked by several key clients. She couldn't stand the humiliation. In a fit of rage, she poured a glass of wine over one of the partners' heads, offending the last lifeline we had left. Our company plunged into crisis. The capital chain snapped. Suppliers began pulling out one after another. And that's when Lucas remembered I existed. He even changed numbers to call me, begging with a lowered voice. Sis, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. The company, it's not just mine. It was also built by Mom and Dad. Even if you're mad at me, you shouldn't take it out on the company. I've already kicked Camila out. Please come back. If we work together, we can pull this company back from the edge. I nodded, and showed up at the company's board meeting. The moment I stepped through the doors, the shareholders' eyes lit up with hope. Lucas walked toward me eagerly, reaching for my hand. Sis, I knew you wouldn't abandon us. I'm still your brother, after all. But I walked right past him, avoiding his touch. I stood at the head of the conference table, glanced around the room, and smiled faintly, mockingly. As you all know, I began. This company was built from scratch by my parents. Though they passed away in an accident, the shares are all under my name. Before I could finish, Lucas interrupted loudly. What my sister said isn't wrong. We're siblings, what's mine is hers. I invited her back today to help save the company. I didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, I slammed my hand on the table and said, loud and clear. I propose we remove Lucas from his position as general manager. Lucas stared at me in disbelief. I raised my chin slightly, and my secretary immediately handed out the documents to all the shareholders. I used to believe we were family, I said calmly. So I never brought this up, but Lucas actually owns no shares. Gasps erupted across the room as everyone flipped through the documents. Lucas snatched one up, scanning it with trembling hands. Yes, my parents died in a car accident, but long before that, they wrote a will. All their shares were left to me. As for Lucas, well, you've all seen what he's done. One disastrous decision after another, pushing the company to the brink. So my proposal to remove him as general manager is more than justified. Lucas's eyes darted across the pages, now fully aware of the will's existence and the record of the company's losses under his lead. But he couldn't accept it. With a loud yell, he tore up his copy and lunged toward the shareholders to snatch theirs as well. This is fake. It has to be fake. You forged this, didn't you? If you don't believe me, feel free to call in a lawyer. Take it to court, I have nothing to hide. And just like that, all the fight left Lucas. He collapsed onto the floor, silent. Maybe, deep down, he knew this day was coming, from the moment he first plotted against me. But this wasn't enough. Losing his title was only the beginning. Compared to what he did to me, this was far from over. Chapter 11. On the day of my wedding with Eric, I saw Ryan again. He sat in a wheelchair, pushed by Camila as they entered the venue. Camila glared at me with such venom it looked like she wanted to tear me apart on the spot. I didn't understand where her hatred came from. Back when she was broke and desperate, I was the one who helped her, kept her away from her abusive father, her gambling-addicted mother, and paid for her education. Some people are just born ungrateful. Ryan, on the other hand, looked at me with deep regret in his eyes. Too bad I didn't spare him a single glance. When it came time to say our vows, Ryan looked like he wanted to cause a scene, maybe even stop the wedding. But Camila slammed him back down into his seat. You're already married to me. The only person in your eyes should be me. Amelia is your aunt-in-law now. Give it up. But clearly, Ryan wasn't ready to give up. Later that night, when the crowd had thinned and I was changing into another gown, he quietly wheeled into my dressing room. Amelia, he said softly. I regret everything. He looked at me expectantly, as if I would forgive him, just like the countless times before. But he was no longer the man he used to be. And I was no longer that naive girl. My silence gave him false hope. Light burst from his eyes as he poured his heart out. Amelia, it was just one mistake. Why won't you take me back? You loved me so much. You were the only one who didn't abandon me when I lost the use of my legs. I'll divorce Camila. She's a liar, she tricked me. She hasn't visited me once since I ended up in a wheelchair again. We're married, but she's always out flirting with God knows who. She's changed. She used to take care of me, help me with everything, even the dirtiest stuff. That vicious woman, if it weren't for her, you'd already be my wife. He gritted his teeth, ranting about Camila's sins. I gave a cold laugh. Do you know why Camila took care of you back then? Because I was the one sponsoring her. She said she wanted to repay my kindness, so she volunteered to care for you so I could focus on developing a cure for your disability. I really believed she was repaying a debt of gratitude. But do you know what my private investigator found out? I handed him a file. The real cause of your accident. Chapter 12. Ryan's face turned pale instantly. The car accident hadn't been some unfortunate mishap. He and Camila had already been secretly involved. That day, Camila wanted a gemstone, the prize for a street racing event. So Ryan, without hesitation, got behind the wheel and drove straight toward the turning point of his life. Tell me, Ryan, isn't this karma for betraying me? He looked up at me, guilt and regret solidifying in his eyes. He clutched my hand tightly, nearly begging. Amelia, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I know you have another way to fix my legs, right? There it was, the real reason for his regret. I nodded. Of course. I had the final stent ready a long time ago. I was just waiting for the right time to install it. But you got married to Camila before that happened. Ryan's face lit up with joy. Then I still have a chance. Amelia, I swear I'll treat you well from now on. I pulled my hand away slowly, my tone ice cold. You're my nephew now. I don't need you to be filial to me. Under his stunned gaze, I spoke slowly. Oh, and about that stent, you won't be needing it anymore. It's been over a month. You've lost your last chance to walk again. For the rest of your life, get used to that wheelchair. And one more thing. I think you'll find this interesting. I dropped a paternity test on the table and turned to leave. It wouldn't take long for Ryan to find out that the child he once obsessed over was actually Lucas's. After that, I never spared another thought for Ryan or Lucas. Let the dogs bite each other. A few months later, I stepped out of the hospital, gently caressing my slightly rounded belly. Eric was by my side, carefully wrapping an arm around me. You're going to be a mom now. You have to be extra careful, he said softly. I chuckled. He was the one acting like a teenager, so flustered and cautious ever since he found out I was pregnant. In the car, he hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. Ryan's dead. I froze for a second, but I didn't really feel anything. Eric explained that after Ryan found out Camila had cheated on him, he went to confront Lucas. In the heat of the moment, Lucas killed him. Lucas ended up in prison. And Camila? She came out of it completely unscathed. Eric let out a cold laugh. Don't worry. I won't let anyone hurt you or our child. I sent news of Camila marrying into a rich family straight to her abusive father and gambling addict mother. She can't cough up the money. Her ending won't be a good one. I smiled and nodded. This, right here, is the power of choosing the right partner. Someone who can handle everything for me.